Hello, and welcome to Alumni Spotlight, the podcast where we shine the light on the remarkable journeys and achievements of our Bird and Bird alumni. My name is Aimee Guzinska-Bowley, a trainee solicitor in our London office, and I will be your host today. I am very much looking forward to today's Alumni Conversation, as we're welcoming our guest alumni, Diana Kuprych, who is part of our Stockholm team and now lives in London. Hi Diana, it's great to have you on this podcast today.
Hello everyone, it's so good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So Diana, could you start by please introducing yourself and tell us more about the position you held at Bird and Bird?
So my name is Diana. I live in London. I'm originally from Ukraine and I worked for 2 years as a trainee at the corporate departments of Bird and Bird Stockholm office. It was a magnificent experience to be part of that was very helpful for my studies that was happening at the same time as I was finishing my undergrad remotely from Odessa.
That sounds like a really good experience. And what was your biggest learning during your time at the firm?
I think that the biggest learning for me from my time with Bird and Bird was the ability to find a way to communicate with different people with different priorities and find a way to get to them, which was challenging at some time, but it's also very rewarding.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think sometimes, and this is definitely one of my biggest learning points as well, is clients, colleagues, even people on the other side, if you're doing some kind of litigation work, it's really trying to figure out their priorities and the way that they want to be communicated with. If it's a client, they might want a different type of advice. Some clients might want like a really quick yes or no answer. They don't want all the fluff surrounding it, whereas other clients might want all the little details. So I think it's definitely learning how different people operate, how different colleagues like to work. So I think that's a brilliant thing to learn and to bring forward with you into your career.
I couldn't agree more. And I relate so much to the point of some clients asking you to do that due diligence report for 600 pages. But it's just the way they prefer to receive information. So
yeah, exactly. So you've spent 2 years in our Stockholm office supporting the corporate team. What did you enjoy the most about the experience?
I would say that exposure to mostly Swedish culture was definitely an enormous learning experience for me. I really liked observing how my colleagues shape their culture and especially having fika, which is a Swedish tradition of having coffee and pastry every week in the middle of the day where everybody drops their work to have a chat with colleagues. I think it's very nice, especially after COVID, to get into more in-person interaction. And I valued that exposure to a different culture very much.
I love that. Are there any other like unusual or unique cultural things that, because I certainly didn't know that about Sweden. Are there any others that you can tell us about?
Oh, yeah. Sweden is definitely a country that is very much attached to its traditions. And so another thing is that they do for St. Lucia, which is one of the Swedish holidays, is people sing a song while one of your colleagues in the office would be dressed as St. Lucia and hold a candle. And it's a very nice representation of how much the Swedish people are attached to their cultural traditions. And it's very fascinating, the fact that even though it is not religious, it is just for the sake of a culture.
Just the sake of it, yeah. I love that. Just doing things because you want to do them. Because it represents you as a country and your values, and that's great. Dressed as St. Lucia, do they do like a little dance as well, or do they just stand there?
It's not dance, it's more like of a dress and candle and songs.
Okay.
And
like a choir.
Kind of like choir, actually.
I'm imagining like Harry Potter, where they're all kind of stood up and like holding frogs. Is it like that with a candle and they're all kind of in a line, or is it more just like less formal? They're all kind of stood where they want to stand and...
I would definitely prefer it to be like in Harry Potter.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's more like, have you ever been to this musical by candlelight where you have the tiny little orchestra with like mostly 3 violins or something, and they would have a lot of candles and they would do the song? It's similar to that experience rather than the whole Harry Potter frog choir.
Oh, wow. I wish we had more stuff like that in England. I feel like we need more of kind of a cultural thing going on to bring people together, to get people feeling like more of a community. And
I think it's just a distinguished feature of the Nordics that they are very much attached to their culture and they follow those traditions very closely.
Yeah. Oh, great. Perfect.
Also, the Nordic officers of Bird and Bird have a tradition of having the Nordic officers retreats, and they rotate between offices. So that's also a very great example of living and breathing one firm, your firm approach.
Exactly. I would completely agree with that. It's bringing people together from different offices and just lets you work better internationally as well. You know, when you've next got an international piece of work on, you just send an email to your colleague and say, hey, the client needs help with a bit of advice from the Italian office, for example. And it's not just a name on the other end, it's someone that you've actually met and hung out with and been to great conferences with and just spent the weekend away with on these retreats. So I think it's a great way to really foster that one firm, your firm culture for sure.
Absolutely. And do not forget the football tournaments.
Oh, yeah, the football tournaments. I went on that last year. I couldn't go this year, but last year was so much fun. Rome, brilliant. Yeah. I don't play football, but you could only go if you played rather than spectated. So I bought some football boots and I'm probably the reason we lost on like the second game, but it was great fun. Met a lot of fantastic people. And in terms of like supporting the corporate team specifically, was there anything about that you particularly enjoyed?
Yeah, so my responsibilities as a trainee in corporate team were very diverse, I would say. I would do tasks from legal research to proofreading agreements and doing project management. And I definitely enjoyed doing project management since it was very much about communication with people. And it was very much about a way to manage the workload and find a way to make things happen, which I think is a very distinguished feature of legal profession as a whole.
And after completing your internship at Bird and Bird, you moved to London, which is obviously where you are now. Can you tell us what you're doing now?
Yeah, so currently I am pursuing my master's at the London School of Economics and Political Science. I specialize in corporate law, and I'm currently writing my thesis on international public law, which concerns security guarantees for states.
Oh, sounds complicated.
It is. It is complicated. It is very timely and is a lot of fun, which is why I chose that topic. And I'm very excited about my research. My exams finished 2 weeks ago.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
That must be a weight off your shoulders.
Definitely.
And now you get to do the fun stuff, writing about, I won't even try and repeat what you said you're writing your thesis on, but writing about all that fun stuff that you're, really interested in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. Perfect. And what would you say kind of motivated you to pursue a Master of Laws at the London School of Economics and Political Sciences?
Actually, I would say that my experience at Bird and Bird was one of the reasons why I chose to do my master's in common law jurisdictions, which the United Kingdom is. Exposure to common law to a little extent got me interested in understanding how another legal system works because Ukraine, as well as Sweden, is a civil law jurisdiction and England is a common law jurisdiction. And I thought that learning about a different legal system would help me to get a new perspective. And that's what I'm doing.
Okay. What is it that you like about the common law stuff, or how would you say it differs from the civil law systems that you're used to dealing with?
Obviously, the biggest difference is the importance of precedent, and without that much reliance on actual material law, which is a significant feature of civil law systems. I would say that I cannot particularly compare in terms of what I like or what I don't like. I am used to civil law system because I've been studying in Ukraine, I work with this in Sweden, and here it is different.
So how do you think your time at Bird and Bird in Stockholm prepared you for your studies at LSE and your Master of Laws program? I know you obviously just said that Bird and Bird and your experience there was a reason that motivated you to pursue it. So what do you actually think your time at Bird and Bird did to prepare you for what you're doing now?
I think that my time with Bird and Bird get me to actually be ready to accept a new perspective, to learn that law works in a different way, in fact, quite much of a different way in a different part of the world, and getting exposed to M&A work and obviously working with lawyers across the firm from different countries led me to have this mindset that, okay, things can work in a different way and I can learn how they work. And that, I think, is a very big asset when you study law in a different jurisdiction.
Great. So you mean kind of like learning to be open-minded about the fact that things can be different and then learning skills which help you to navigate those differences So stuff that you're not quite used to, and then developing skills to kind of help you navigate those differences.
Absolutely. I couldn't say better myself, honestly. This is about transferable skills that you gain when you do legal internship in an international law firm, and then you bring that to the university, and then you've developed those further.
And what would you say, going off that question or that answer that you just gave, what would you say are some of the most important skills that you feel like you have developed from working at Bird and Bird in Sweden that have either helped you in your masters or helped you in other areas of your life? What would you say the key skills are?
I would say something that I've mentioned before, which is ability to communicate and to find your way to people, because we're all different and not every person that you interact with in your professional life or personal life, in fact, is going to resonate with you. And my time with Bird and Bird and having had this experience of finding a way to communicate with people taught me that there is always a way to get to another person. And I think this is an invaluable skill to have.
Yeah, definitely. I think I would echo that that is 100% one of the key skills that you do learn, especially in this industry, because you're dealing with different types of people every single day. You can be juggling, 5, 10, 15 matters at one time, all different personalities, all different clients, all different priorities. So I think that's extremely important. And also all different colleagues that you're working on that as well. Obviously, the team that you're working in is so important to getting the job done. So being able to resonate with other people and work with them efficiently and in a way that works for everyone involved is definitely a super important skill. I think I'd probably also say one for me, at least, that I've learned from being a trainee at Bird and Bird is being able to digest a huge amount of information. That is a super important skill that you develop as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I deeply resonated with what you said after taking my exams at LLC, because when you have to manage 500 pages of case law and textbook per class, and it is all a different legal system, something that you are not familiar with, it can be really challenging. You just learn how to digest that information and how to find the exact point from that chapter in the textbook, exact point from the decision. What is the law there? What is the point? And yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, it is definitely something that you need to survive and to thrive in this profession.
Yeah, definitely. I think also because I know you were saying about common law and stuff. Obviously, with common law, there's a lot of case law judgments and things you need to read. And some of these judgments, I remember when I was first starting to do research in my first year as a trainee, and you're reading them, and there's so many different things coming out of it. So many, you read the case digest, and, there's 6 or 7 points that are coming out of it as precedents, but you're trying to find, one line that's spoken by the judge. It might even be like obiter, it might not even be binding, but to support your case. So I think picking out and being very selective with the kind of things that you use, definitely it's a skill I've developed, and it sounds like you have too. So you mentioned already you're originally from Ukraine. How did working and studying in a different country shape your professional and personal development?
That is a great question. And I think that this experience that I had with Bird and Bird in Sweden, the experience I'm having now with Bird and Bird in London, it is invaluable as for somebody who had to adapt to things and to have to find a new way to get things done. And I would say that, again, exposure to a different culture, being open-minded, being ready to understand that people have been grown up in different environments and their perspectives are shaped accordingly. And there is always a way to find your way with other people. I think this is the biggest takeaway from me from these experiences.
So obviously you did work in our Stockholm office in Sweden, but we live and breathe the one firm, your firm values, and you're now here in London. We're sitting here at the London office right now recording this podcast. And I know that you attended a conference the other day on aviation and defense law at our office. Why do you have such an interest in that area?
Yeah, that conference was such an amazing event to attend. And I was absolutely awed by the number of brilliant people who presented their talks on UK defense procurement reform, on strategic defense review, obviously aviation law issues, especially with the war in Ukraine going on and the defense spending getting increased. This area is very much of interest to me. I see myself entering defense and space manufacturing law at some point in future.
That's great. I think it's really important to eventually go into a sector, an area that you're really passionate about and that you have a real interest in, because, it just makes getting up in the morning fun. I know law is law, but it can be so different across the different sectors. I have a particular interest in media entertainment law, for example, film, newspapers, all that kind of stuff. I think it's such an interesting space to work in. And I think working in that area, doing the kind of law that you love, it's just a recipe for enjoying your job, enjoying your life, and I think just overall success, really. Well, thank you so much, Diana. It's been really, really great talking to you and really insightful. And you know what? I might even go home and share a pastry with my family after this. Actually, I'm going to put it in my team's diary. A meeting, 3:00 on the dot. We're going to share a pastry together and just chat. And I think that's a tradition that I would quite like to bring to England.
Absolutely. Do that. Go ahead. Every Thursday, 3 p.m. Grab your coffee, grab your pastry, cinnamon pastry.
Noted.
That's important. And have a chat with your colleagues, have a chat with your family. Be there, be present. And thank you so much for this conversation, Aimee. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you for the invitation. And I hope we'll talk again soon.
And to our audience, thank you very much for listening. We hope you found it as interesting as we did. Please look out for our next alumni interview, or if you'd like to share your own story, don't hesitate to contact us at alumni@twobirds.com. We would love to hear from you. Bye.